following program is available in high definition on Channel 700. This program is designed and produced by the community with the support of TV Cogeco.
Welcome to this episode of Oakville Matters. This episode is about the tree canopy, protecting the tree canopy of Oakville, and we ought to have a subtitle for it. We can call it The Battle of the Beetles. And what we're going to dive into is the work we're doing to try to save our tree canopy and actually even grow it. And joining me today for that discussion are Allison Winmill, a forest health specialist with BioForest, which is a company that's helping Oakville with this work, and Andrea Rowe, who's a Canopy Club member and a volunteer forest health ambassador, and she's helping get the message out to the public and the kids, especially around Pilgrim Woods School. Thank you very much for being with us today. I call it the Battle of the Beetles because we had no sooner set a target of growing Oakville's tree canopy from 29% to 40% than we came under attack from these voracious tree-eating beetles, the emerald ash tree borer, and close behind that one, I don't know if the pine beetles got here yet.
Not yet.
but close behind that one, there are other threats, possibly the result of globalization and container trade. Who knows? But we have a plan to fight them. Allison, do you want to maybe talk about how BioForest is helping us?
Sure. So, as you had mentioned, I'm a forest health specialist with BioForest, and we are working with the town of Oakville and developing a forest health monitoring program. So the program we began back in 2014, and it basically consists of three different parts. So the first is early detection surveys that we do through the woodlots of the town of Oakville, kind of as a quick walkthrough, a glance looking for anything out of the norm, any invasive insects or disease, forest health issues that might be affecting our forests. We also do long-term monitoring plots with the town, so these are permanent sampling plots that we put in place to give us a long-term vision of forest health over time. And we established the Forest Health Volunteer Program with the town as well, so trying to do some community outreach to get citizens engaged in the urban forest and to have them out as eyes on the ground for early detection of invasive insects and disease as well.
So Andrea, how did you come to be involved in the Canopy Club, which is one of the outreach things that Allison's pointed out?
For the last couple of years, I have done a gardening program at Pilgrim Wood Public School, and I have reached out to the town on a number of occasions to see what kind of resources or support you might provide to the school for our environmental film festival, and made a connection with Jill McGinnis. And she sent me an email saying, you know, this is a program that we've got, we need some volunteers, would you be interested? And so the timing didn't work for me for the initial year, but I've gotten involved this past year.
And what does that work wind up looking like? What do you wind up doing as a Canopy Club member?
We had a training session, and lots of valuable materials were provided to us, which I was then able to take home. And I got my kids out, and we measured the diameter, the circumference of the tree, so they helped me measure how high up we needed to measure it, and held the measuring tapes and jotted down, take a look at the canopy to see if there's dead branches, defoliation, yep. General decline, what am I missing?
Discoloration.
There we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, just generally taking that step back and looking at the overall health of the tree. So going and walking up and down our street, chatting with our neighbors about what we're doing, and spreading the word.
So can I call that gardening on a really grand scale?
Absolutely. Well, and I have to make that distinction sometimes that I'm learning about trees, but we're trying to incorporate it into the education that we do provide back at the school.
And does the school board support this as you think it should? You know?
That's kind of a loaded question, because yes, they really do support outdoor classrooms and getting the kids out and tying environmental initiatives into what they're already learning inside the classroom, so making those connections. And they do support us in planning how to try and do that. But it's hard for the teachers to do it.
And is the Outdoor Adventure Kids program at Pilgrimwood,
Yeah.
is it a hit with the kids? Would kids at other schools like it?
I think so. My younger son is at a different school, and he's like, why do you do so much volunteering? Why can't you come to my school and do that same thing? And so I did. This past week, I went to my younger son's school. He goes to Munns, and planted tulips with the grade 3s, and they loved it. Loved it. They just love being outside and having that hands-on, tangible learning experience.
So you hear that, moms? Here's an opportunity to do something that might excite your kids, and Andrea, I'm sure, would help you get involved.
Absolutely. It's hard sometimes to find the time to teach your kids, but when you're out for a walk, you just do it naturally. Get them outside. Oh, what is that little bug? Oh, I don't know. Let's Google it, because they all know how to Google. Let's investigate it. Yeah. Learn about it.
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I, the best part of life is raising kids. We just, we wanted them badly. We still remember how badly we wanted them. They're in their 30s now, but and they occasionally still need parenting, and that's when we remind each other of how much we wanted them.
Forever.
Forever. So, Allison, is there a distinction between private trees and public trees in what we're doing?
Yeah, of course. So our volunteer network that we have established in the town of Oakville are only serving public trees. So we provide them with a map with the town of Oakville street tree inventory on it with aerial satellite photography. And so our volunteers are able to identify then what trees that they're looking at. So they are only serving street trees or municipal trees in the town. But that's a common challenge with any municipality, is encouraging awareness and to make sound management decisions on trees on private property. So this is a way to outreach to the members of the public in order to, look at a tree on public property, but then maybe take that information and look at the trees that they have on their own private property to see maybe we have signs and symptoms of emerald ash borer or something else. So it encourages a learning experience on municipal property and then taking that onto private property.
Maybe you could help people understand that taking down a tree has a cost, and there is a way to treat a tree to protect it, certain trees anyway, from the emerald ash tree borer. Can you talk about the comparative costs and the fact that it's not free to give up, and it might be competitive to treat your tree rather than kill your tree?
Right, yeah. So there's definitely a cost associated with removing a tree on private property. And there's also the option of treating your tree, and if it is an ash, in the fight against emerald ash borer. Treating your tree depends on a variety of factors, including the state that it's at of infestation, whether it's at the certain point where treating is still a possibility, or if it's past that 30% canopy decline and it's no longer considered a valid candidate to treat your tree with. So that's something that you can consult one of the many service providers who inject trees with the different systemic insecticides that are available to do that. And they can assess it to see whether it's at that point or not. And often the treatments do require multiple years of treating, so there's a cost associated with that. But it depends on the size of your tree and again at the state of infestation that you're looking at. So it's important to consult a professional to come in and take a look and assess where you're at on that scale.
Let's not hurry over that phrase, systemic insecticide, too fast. Does that mean an organic material?
So there's a variety of products available. The one that BioForest produces is triazin, which is a biological insecticide. So it is trees helping trees, as the product is made from another tree. So that is one of the options available to treat your trees, is using triazin.
So is it too big a stretch to say that's like vaccinating your tree?
It's giving the tree an extra boost to help protect it. It's a tool that needs to be used early in the infestation, so it's to get in before your tree is under major insect attack, to treat it early and to give it an extra boost to help fight off the attacks of emerald ash borer.
So you should know what your tree is, and you should learn to recognize an ash tree.
That's right, yeah.
And which I wouldn't wait myself. I don't have an ash tree, but if I had one, I'd be protecting it before I started to lose leaves.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the messages that we try to put across. You know, there's numerous values associated with a tree and ecosystem services that they provide in the urban forest as well as in the large-scale forest. Trees do a lot for us, and they are certainly important to protect in our canopy. So that is something to consider, that if you have a tree on private property and it's important to you and you'd like to protect it, then that's an option available for you.
Now, maybe from the perspective of each of you, but starting with Andrea, a forest ambassador, help people understand what we're talking about and what that kind of work turns into.
I like the way that the town of Oakville set up the initial training for us, that we don't have to be the experts. We're there to spread the word. We need to let people know. And the section of trees that I was given to inspect during my time volunteering this year were my own neighbors and my neighborhood. So I was given a grid to work within, and it's local. These are friendly faces. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, well, I'm a forest health ambassador with the town, and this is what it's all about. I don't have all the answers, but here are some additional numbers that you can call or websites that you can look at. Yeah. Referenced BioForest. They can check them out and see what's available, and know that the town does have a plan in place, that we're trying to be proactive. We're trying to save as many trees as we can and spread the word.
Now, how did this program get invented? Who do we credit?
Oh, that's a good question. It was, an idea that we had as BioForest in collaboration with already doing those forest health monitoring, the detection surveys, and the long-term monitoring plots with BioForest. And it was kind of a collaborative effort between BioForest and the town that we want to reach out to the community and get the community involved in these initiatives. Those are the people who are walking their dogs every day. They're outside, in the trails, on the streets. They're the ones who are out there looking at the trees, so having more eyes on the ground is incredibly important, to have people out assisting us and looking for these things. As part of our training program, as Andrea can say, that we teach our volunteers in the 3 major invasive insects that the town of Oakville's forests are facing right now is emerald ash borer, gypsy moth, and Asian longhorn beetle. So we give them an initial training on how to identify these insects, and then they complete the surveys and report that data back to us. But even after the program is over, you're still going to go out and enjoy the environment in the town. So those are things that you can pass on to your friends or your kids or whoever it may be that you enjoy the outdoors with. And it's kind of spreading the word and growing the program to have more people looking for these insects and helping us fight the fight and keeping our forests healthy.
I like the angle. It's something to do with your dog. In just a minute, after this message, we'll be right back to continue to talk about the battle of the beetles and what we're doing to win the war, to save our canopy and even grow it. Be right back. Hello and welcome back to Oakville Matters, and as we're calling this episode, the Battle of the Beetles. With us are Allison and Andrea, and we're talking about the professional side of this and the volunteer side of this. We've got the Forest Ambassador program where people patrol their own neighborhoods, help identify where the beetle is attacking, and we've got the professional side of it with help from folks like BioForest to treat the trees that are savable and protect our canopy. This is all part of a program to grow our canopy, which we adopted before we were under attack by the emerald ash tree borer and the gypsy moth and the Asian longhorn beetle. And those are great things to Google. The beetles are both pretty ugly, in my opinion. You might want to look them up just to be horrified. The next thing I thought we'd dive into here is Where in town is this the biggest problem? Is there any part of town that is less affected than another part of town?
Well, the beetle was roughly first confirmed in the town of Oakville in 2008. So since then it has spread, from hot pockets or high infestation zones throughout the town. At this point, we're experiencing it generally throughout the entire town of Oakville. There are zones that have a higher level of infestation, but at the moment it's pretty much full coverage.
So that's thanks to the work of Andrea and the others in the Forest Ambassador Program, going out and beetle spotting, I guess.
Right. So the town of Oakville, BioForest itself, we go out and do surveys for emerald ash borer, and gypsy moth. We do lots of different surveys, but for emerald ash borer specifically, we do different kinds of surveys ourselves. And then we also have the volunteer program that we have members of the public that report on signs and symptoms of emerald ash borer on city trees as well. So.
Well, a trending hot topic these days is a drone.
Right.
Are we using drones to hunt these problems out?
Not specifically. This past summer of 2015, BioForest worked in collaboration with the University of Algoma to do some work with a drone. Residents from the town of Oakville may have seen it. Primarily, the researcher that was conducting this work was looking at different stages of ash mortality in woodlots and trying to correlate that with bird populations. And but it also, after looking at the imagery, there's no results at the moment yet to share, but after looking at the imagery, it could be a tool that we could use in the future for assessing forest health and, canopy coverage and canopy health and decline and canopy closure. As you had mentioned, there's lots of targets to grow our canopy too, so it could be a tool to use for that.
So our Canopy Club is concerned with more than just the battle of the beetles. It's also concerned with growing the canopy,
right?
Going from 29% to 40%. The experts say that urban forest health begins somewhere around 40%, and we have a plan to get to 40% by 2057, the 200th anniversary of the founding of Oakville. We found when we were celebrating in 2007, it was a coincidence, but we discovered that we were 29% forest canopy cover, urban forest canopy cover, in some work we were doing with the U of T, and it happened to be the 150th anniversary year, 2007, and that's when we set the target. And of course, the next year we discover we're under attack. So that means we have to plant a lot of trees, not only save a lot of trees, but we got to grow a lot of trees. And there's natural replacement as well that has to be considered, because trees don't live forever. Even trees have to be replaced. So we've now set targets for tree cover all over town, and the amount of tree cover is different in every part of town. We're trying to grow it in most parts of town. When people redevelop a piece of land and they cut down trees, the next thing they discover is they're going to have to replace them. And we have minimum targets of, I think the smallest target we have is 20% tree cover. And when you average that in with the places where we have more than 50%, we'll get to our 40%. In your experience with the Canopy Club, Andrea, have you been involved in any of the big tree plantings that have been going on?
Through some volunteering that I have done with Oakville Green, I have participated in some of the big tree plantings, not specifically with the Canopy Club. And I'm sorry to do this, but I keep bringing it back to the schools because that's where my passion is. Mm-hmm. We try and plant 1 to 2 trees every year with each of the schools that I'm involved in, and we do that primarily through the Conservation Halton. They help us source trees, they make sure that they're appropriate for the area in which we're planting so that they stand the best chance of survival, and we try and provide some biodiversity while we're doing it.
And do you have any trouble getting the trees to plant?
Never.
Good, that's good to hear. I mean, my goodness, Oakville Green, they've planted thousands of trees.
Thousands.
And Siemens Canada, who moved their headquarters here, has been an amazing corporate citizen.
Yeah.
Their employees go out and plant 500 trees a year or more, and they're now up to a couple thousand, several thousand that they've planted. And hint, hint, you could too. And you know, that would really leave a legacy for the future if everybody plants a tree. You know, my father's in the military, and we moved every 3 years whether we wanted to or not, is the joke. And we always, everywhere we moved, he would, I wanted 5 kids, so he would plant 5 trees wherever we lived. And it was this thing he did, I'm planting trees in your memory.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
all over the world, there's 5 trees in various stages of health. So you know, consider planting a tree for everybody you know, or planting a tree for each of your kids. Plant a tree for your mom, and that'll help us get there too. And I think you get a bit of an emotional investment in it when you do it that way too. Yeah. Obviously, we don't plant ash trees particularly. BioForest must have ideas about what the best trees to plant are, and I know Oakville Green has a conviction that we ought to be planting trees that are indigenous or native to our area. Are we on the same page there?
Yeah, definitely. It's important to conserve native biodiversity, you know, to draw from our native gene pool that we have here for different tree species. And I think the most important, or equally as important to planting native trees, is to increase that biodiversity. So, you know, to ensure that we're not planting full streets with the exact same species, you know, to keep the species different, to make that biodiverse, and instead of planting monocultures, that we're increasing that tree cover.
Yeah, Oakville's been lucky in that every tree is not an ash tree. Only 20% or so of our trees are ash trees. Although there were some subdivisions built in, I'll call it the bad old days, where I think every tree was an ash tree. And so there's a real object lesson for why monoculture, which is planting only one thing, right, is not the best idea.
That's right, and you can see that in lots of different municipalities, you know, that ash is planted as a monoculture species. It's an incredibly hardy species. It's very resilient to the different stresses that an urban environment puts on trees. So, you know, it's a great candidate until now we're dealing with emerald ash borer. So, unfortunately, our native ash trees have no defense to emerald ash borer, so it's something that has turned out to be quite lethal.
So triazine is the best bet to equip them with a natural defense?
It's a product to give them, you know, a boost to help them fight the fight against emerald ash borer. But it's something that's applied on an individual tree basis, so you know, it has to be applied to each individual tree.
Do we know where this beetle comes from?
It's native to Asia, is its native range, and it is believed to have come to North America through infested shipping material. So it was first discovered and confirmed in Detroit in 2002, and very soon after in Windsor in 2002 as well, and has spread out from there.
Now, where it's native in Asia, they still have ash trees.
That's right. Yeah, so they're ash trees that are native to that region. The emerald ash borer, much like many insects that we have here, they're, you know, meant to be there. That's part of the forest ecosystem. And so the trees that they have there are kind of working in relationship with the beetle, and it hasn't really proposed a huge problem. But now bringing it to somewhere where our ash species here have no natural defense to it is where we see this, issue.
Are there predators in Asia that attack the emerald ash tree borer and help keep its numbers down?
Yeah, there is a parasitoid wasp that is present in Asia that helps, you know, as you said, its natural prey is emerald ash borer, and it helps to keep the population in check. And a few species of those wasps have been brought over to North America and been released in the States and in Canada to see if we can help use this biological control to reduce or, you know, help manage the population. But the release has been quite recent, so there's not a whole lot of data to see what's happening at the moment.
Andrea, in your work with kids, is this one of the things that you've Googled together to look at predators and counters to the beetle. What do the kids think when they see the wasp story, if they've seen it?
We haven't done a whole lot with the emerald ash borer. My story for the school this year pertains actually to the gypsy moth, because the kids were finding the caterpillars and they didn't know what the caterpillar was, what it would turn into. Is it a moth? Is it a butterfly caterpillar? So we did do some research around the caterpillar. I hadn't done the training yet, but as soon as I did, I realized, oh dear, we shouldn't have been putting those back on the trees. We should have been removing them and dealing with them. So unfortunately, my training came a little bit too late for our initial discussions, but now the kids have been told this is what it looks like and this is what it will do to the trees, and we've been able to actually see one tree pretty much completely defoliated by the end of the summer.
Now, Allison, the gypsy moth's been with us for a long time.
That's right.
How far back is that problem?
It was introduced a long time ago, back in the 1800s, I believe. It's in the United States, but it's been present with us for a long time, and its populations flex. So sometimes, its population is higher and causing more noticeable damage, and then sometimes in other years it's lower and causing less damage.
Now, releasing the wasp as an effort to control the emerald ash borer, is that safe? Do we know?
Well, the work's been done by the Canadian Forest Service, doing research on the wasp, and as I said, there's not a whole lot of data available right now to say what's happening with the wasp population. Its prey is the emerald ash borer, so hopefully, it does its job and preys on the beetles and helps reduce the population.
Well, we've got any number of wasps that aren't quite that useful, so let's hope this one will earn its keep. What's this one called again?
They're parasitoid wasps, so essentially they prey on the eggs and larvae of the beetle by using them as a host to lay their own eggs. Yes.
It's like an earthbound version of Alien or something.
Yeah, the biology of it is quite interesting to look into, but it uses emerald ash borer as its host to generate its own population. This has been very
informative. Thank you so much to each of you for being here, and thank you for joining us for this discussion. I hope you've been motivated to get involved on all the opportunities that we've outlined today, and thank you for joining us on Oakville Matters. We'll see you again.